Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek here, of course, on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Stolen exam papers and trying to be better at playing football is the name of the game for some of our characters on today's episode, as we're talking 2 more episodes in Season 3 of Dawson's Creek, episodes 3 and 4 of Season 3. I feel like Season 3 hasn't, kicked into...
really opened up yet.
Yeah. No, it's not opened up yet. It's not kicked into the gear I think it wants to quite yet. I think we're still easing ourselves
has
in.
not.
Yes, as you keep alluding to. I think I'm starting to notice potential happenings.
What the setup is going to be for kind of the
certainly as of these 2 episodes, I think we're talking today as well. I'm not overly certain where I stand with my feelings on what may be potentially being set up. To be perfectly honest with you, at this time, but I would hope, if it is that, I know I'm being very vague because I feel like I have to be. If it is that, then I would hope the next few episodes start to really show me why I should be into this. And I feel like it might be the same thing that I'm thinking of that is actually happening, given your immediate response to what I've just said. But
I did not think I was having any kind of response. I'm just
your face felt very pleasantly surprised. However, I might be reading into things. I might be doing a lot of reading into things at the moment in Dawson's Creek, but obviously I'm not reading into the fact that we do have plenty of arguments going on in these couple of episodes as well. Completely unjustified arguments from one person's side as well. And I was very shocked in the 3rd episode it is, when Pacey actually smacks Dawson in the face.
Yes, and
I was shocked, but I was also like, you know what? Yes, go on, keep doing it.
And Dawson hitting him right back and drawing some blood there. So
right,
and of course the timing on that was pretty perfect for Joey to come out.
Well, exactly. Didn't think we'd be getting any of that though. To be honest with you, in Dawson's Creek, it never seemed like that sort of stuff would happen. But I think they're pretty kind of on edge episodes, aren't they?
Yeah.
I feel like there's an awful lot of tension in a couple of these episodes, and we get a bit of a realization of exactly who Eve is as a character as well, and what her role within this group, not that she really has one, but what her role within this group kind of is as just thorn in the side, essentially. And we get a little bit of a telling her off, I suppose, which I think is justified as well. So I quite liked that. But no, two interesting episodes again. But like I said at the start, I don't feel like Season 3 has really kicked into its gear yet.
Okay. Fair.
I kind of feel like I'm waiting for that.
Okay. I think that's an astute observation for sure.
Okay, should we get straight into it then? Get your binder out, Janine, because we have Season 3, Episode 3, titled None of the Above. And as you often do, you always do, in fact, you are going to give us a nice reading of the synopsis from your obsessive
Dawson's Creek binder made in high school. Yes. None of the Above, Episode 303. Cheaters never prosper. Dawson is stunned when Eve presents him with a sneak peek at the PSAT test, and everyone is tempted to cheat, including Joey, whose scholarship is dependent on her SAT scores, and Andy, who is desperately fighting for acceptance to Harvard. But when the test is stolen, it's Pacey that Dawson accuses, since he sees Pacey slipping back into his old ways. Meanwhile, Jack is insistent that the football team is purposefully beating him down because he is gay.
Yes, it's interesting. I like that we're getting the whole Jack football story. I do. I like
Yes.
the Jack football story because it's something that we haven't had remotely in the last, in the first two seasons. Is anything sort of team building outsider going into some sort of team environment and growing within the
Yeah.
team. We haven't had that at all with anybody. We're
Or
getting
even him
with Jack.
living as a gay person in high school and how
Yeah,
that's starting to look for him now that kind of a lot of the stigma has died down from his peers.
yeah. We're getting this now. He is, I said last week, didn't I, when we were talking the first couple of episodes, obviously, of season two, not last week, season three, sorry. I like how Jack is being presented to us at the
Yeah.
moment. I like the character of Jack. He's the most kind of reasonable feeling person in the
Yeah.
entire show at the
Yeah.
moment. Everybody else has some sort of oddity going on at the
Yeah.
minute. And even Jen, who I think is probably the second most reasonable person at the moment in the show, is having to deal with all these kind of weird responsibilities, I suppose she's being given that she's very,
Yeah, as
very
head cheerleader.
uncomfortable with.
Yes, yeah.
She doesn't really want to be doing. She's been forced into this. Jack, at least with the football, okay, took some convincing, but does actually seemingly want to
Want to be
participate.
good.
Is
Yes.
good at it, wants to improve at it, but
Yeah.
is just feeling this um this stigma again, I suppose, of everybody possibly honing in on him because of this. Not that that's really the case, to be honest. And I think it takes Mitch as coach to kind of tell him that and just say, look, if you think that's what's going on, I don't think that's what's going on. But then you need to fight more. You need to
Yeah.
fight against it. You need to show these guys that they can think what they want. But first things first, you're a great football player. So
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah,
And
and
he
I
needs
love
that.
that Mitch yeah, and I love that Mitch is, incorporated in this storyline, that they're getting him involved. We have Gail kind of moved away. The parent
Yeah,
situation
it's
is
not involved
not.
at all.
Yes, so I like that this is where we're kind of, sticking in Mitch so that he can be a continuous part of the story, and he does get kind of a big little plot point with Dawson in the next episode as well. So I like that we're getting, more Mitch, and I think again, it's like as an adult now watching the show,
Yeah.
um, that adult storyline and having that character be kind of more a part of the story is far more interesting to me now than I think it was when I was watching the show as a teenager. So I do really appreciate that kind of fresh aspect of watching the show for the umpteenth time.
Yeah. And look, as we said last time as well, I think Mitch needs this focus,
Yeah.
that he's able to put into the football team. Is it this episode that they actually do play their game, or is it the next
I
episode?
believe it's the next one because it's the whole kind of conflict between him and Dawson and what Dawson's actions
Yeah.
affecting that game and all of that.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a build up to that. There's a real sense of camaraderie that's growing, a sense of belonging that's growing with that whole football team unit. That new, is he called Harvey, the quarterback kid?
Oh, Henry.
Um,
Henry. Yeah.
Henry.
He's
I don't know why I'm
freshman.
forgetting everybody's name at the moment. I don't know what's
Yeah.
wrong with me. Henry. Um, we're seeing him develop a little bit as a character as well. He's got this adoration for Jen, which
Yeah.
Jack finds absolutely hilarious, and
Yes.
I find it hilarious that he finds it so hilarious. But we see him develop a certain potentially over the top confidence in that regard, but it's developed through the team. It's developed through the team bonding. It's developed through the camaraderie of the football team itself. I just
Yeah.
like this little element that we're having in
Yeah.
the show at the minute.
Yes, and I love that he's putting a lot of time into helping Jack get better because, like, I think the thing Jack is trying to work on is to get the ball through kind of a sea of players,
Yeah, it's
uh
pure shoulder strength, basically, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so him fighting through to get the ball to where it needs to go, as opposed to just being knocked down,
Yeah.
instead of making the touchdown. So Henry, has been, really helping him, develop those skills to do that. So I like the team aspect of the 2 of them, Mitch being involved, and Jack, integrating into the school population post kind of the gay stigma that he was facing when he
Yeah.
first came out. So yeah, he's settling in, and I like that we're kind of getting to see how that's working for
Yes.
him.
Aside from that, obviously, we do have this whole situation with the test, the PSAT, which is the
Yes.
practice SAT, which is obviously, the high school exams that
Yeah.
are taken in the US.
Yes.
It's
They
all very intense. The principal's being very serious about it, but in
Yes.
that pleasant way that I quite like. And you've told me he
Yes.
becomes a more fully fledged out character as well. I kind of like him. I like his dynamic with everyone.
Yes, and we see him have these kind of one-on-one moments with each of our kind of lead characters that we're following, to make kind of impact for something that's going to come later with this character. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I like them kind of setting up these moments with him. He's really taking it seriously. He's having kind of these prep courses for everybody, to prepare. And yeah, then we kind of we do have a little fun opening, a very meta opening when it comes to Eve
we do.
opening in his room. It's movie night, but Eve has chosen to watch Felicity, which was also a show on WB, so they were actually like sister shows. Um, and the fact that she relates Felicity to like a female Dawson, and then of course Dawson has to say, except she's a fictional TV character, kind of thing,
Yes,
you know.
it was very very self-referential.
Yes, and so him kind of talking through things, indecisive, very fickle, not knowing who to choose, not knowing what they want in romance or life, and she's like, "She's you. She's totally you, Dawson, except she's a girl and she's in college." Like, and you think about it, because I watched Felicity as well around this time, so I was very much like, "Yeah, Felicity kinda is a Dawson." Um, and then the fact that they kind of start making out, and then it's like it always cuts to commercial at the
Yes,
best part, and then we cut to the title sequence. So yeah, I
yes.
I, I like the little kind of meta commentary happening, the WB of it all, kind of coming to light. So that was a fun little thing. And then later she does come with she sees Dawson and his friends doing all this prep, getting ready for this thing, and then she presents him with the actual test with all the answers for the PSAT. So
Yes,
Dawson,
I think this episode really shows Eve's just a bad person. I mean, in the last couple of episodes, the first two of the season that we were speaking about last episode here,
yeah,
she was intriguing. It was an interesting, fresh little punch, of character to the show. And how does Dawson, mostly Dawson, but yes, okay, everybody else, how does Dawson deal with a person like this? How does he, what is his dynamic with a person like this? And I got that from those first two episodes, but now she's just, as Dawson realizes, we are realizing that she's just, what is she even doing? Almost as though she's not actually a real person
yeah,
and is there to just be bothersome and
to
just
Dawson to
poke
meddle for her
people
own
to
kind
just
of
meddle,
entertainment. Yeah,
just to meddle. She's not even meddling in an Abby Morgan way that we obviously had before, where there's something going on. There's just that inherent kind of I'm a bit of a high school bully, yet I have inner demons kind of way.
yeah, yeah,
That's Abby Morgan. This is just somebody whose just sole purpose in life is to cause chaos. She's like the Joker of Dawson's Creek. It's just a bit
Just to
silly.
come in and shake things up, and I think,
Yeah.
I think she served her purpose in those first few episodes of the season to kind of get Dawson out of his shell, to have him being more risque, to maybe be to grow him up a little bit, give him a little bit more sex appeal, um, and to have him be in conflict with his friends because he's being different because of her. And
Yeah.
so I think she kind of served her purpose pretty well with that in those first 2 episodes. And now as we get here, she's just kind of meddling for the sake of meddling. I will
It
say
becomes
that they
annoying.
Yes, well, I will say the character in general, they do set up something with her, and then it kind of falls by the wayside a few episodes going forward. So, um, she does have a
Okay.
purpose, but they don't really I will kind of give you a warning that they don't really do much with it beyond a certain point. So, she is there for a reason at this point, but it won't really be, that significant going down the line from what I remember.
It's strange, really, that though, isn't it? Because you've said, and I've recognised, not just because you've said that Dawson's Creek's so good as a show at putting little character moments in and
And
then
calling
making
back
them
to
pay
them.
off
Yeah, mhm.
so much later on.
Yeah.
And with Eve, it just seems like, as you've just said, that doesn't even eventually happen.
Yeah.
So why is it happening now? That's almost making me more annoyed with her as a character now, knowing
Yes.
that none of it actually goes anywhere properly.
Yes. So, I don't feel bad in kind of revealing that much to you because you are already kind of feeling some type of way about the character not really serving a purpose. So I mean, I'm letting you know that ultimately she still doesn't really serve a purpose, but they tried to make a purpose for her at a certain point. So
I mean, okay,
So I'm
but
curious to see how you will feel about what they kind of do with
okay.
her in these next few episodes before it's kind of,
I'm just thinking, obviously, at the start of season 2, we
yeah,
were introduced to Jack and Andy, and they were the
yeah,
new characters, and quickly we were not only endeared to them,
yeah,
I think we understood they had significant story purpose.
yeah,
But were we ever endeared to Eve? We were intrigued. I think we
yes,
were intrigued, but then it doesn't go to endearing, it goes to this sort of annoyance that
yes,
we all
which is
now feel with
interesting.
her in this episode,
Yeah.
because this is exactly what goes on with Dawson's mind in this episode
Yeah, so I love that
when
you
she
kind of
steals this test.
yes, and I love that you kind of are in agreement with Dawson when he gets annoyed with her as well in this episode. So she brings him this test. And, Pacey does call him out on these really great points later in the episode, but like Dawson doesn't get rid of it. He doesn't give it back to her. He doesn't throw it away. He doesn't turn it in. He brings it to them and asks them
Yeah,
what they want to do about it. And you think on the surface, like none of them are going to say yes to this. But then we get that kind of little great moment where they pass it around the table and they all kind of say the reason they could see the person next to them taking it and
yeah,
using it. Pacey, he's just kind of given up. He doesn't really care anymore. And it's like ingrained in the original version of him that we knew to cheat and do that and take the easy way out. So, Pacey, could definitely use it. We see Joey have these kind of fear dreams of failing or not making it to the
yeah,
test in time and that stress and her just general feeling that we've seen from the beginning of her just being afraid to be stuck in Cape Side and never getting out and not doing more with her life. So that fear could drive Joey to do something like that. Andy as well, an ended relationship, um, and that kind of fear as well, because we've seen her be very anal about her grades and be
oh
very
yeah,
worrisome about her future and those things, and then everything she's been through in the last season, and of course the breakup, all of those things weighing on her could definitely have her think about doing it. Jack just too busy with the football to even study. Uh, you know, Jen as well, just kind of focused on other things and being really kind of apathetic nowadays. So, would she want to kind of partake in that and take an easy route as well? And
It gives
Dawson,
the yeah.
too busy
It
getting busy, as Pacey says, that he might,
exactly.
and he's the one who didn't throw it away. So it's obviously something in him who that thought about it. So I love that we give these genuine reasons as to why everyone would have a motive for wanting to use this cheat sheet. And then, a fire alarm gets pulled, and the test, the teacher, the principal comes and says, everybody leave your belongings, go outside, drop everything. And so they have to leave the envelope sat on the table. And then when they come back, it's gone. So
Yeah,
yeah, it becomes a kind of a bit of an interesting mystery that we end up kind of thinking about for the rest of the episode.
it does, and it gives us that mystery properly because
Hmm.
we've just had all those very, very understandable reasons for each one of them to
Yeah.
want this cheat sheet,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, we're constantly then thinking about it, I think, when it does come to who actually does get the cheat
Yeah.
sheet. For some reason, it's I'm going to say what I said at the end. I don't think there's no spoilers, obviously. We're talking about the episode, but when it does come to the fact that it was Andy,
Yeah.
I hate it because I feel like the entirety of season 3 is now just let's make Andy a terrible person when we had no
Uh
reason to.
yeah.
We had no reason to do that at the end of the second season when well, I'm going to go back to it. The end of the second season, the most sympathetic possible thing happened.
Yes.
And then immediately, last episode for us, on Discovering Dawson's Creek, she cheats on Pacey with the Mark dude from the, you know, the
The
home where she
facility.
was.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
I don't want to. It's facility, very clinical term. I wanted to say
I don't want to
home.
call it an asylum or like some
It was not an asylum. Um,
the mental
there,
institution. Yeah, I don't want to call it
there.
any of those things. Yeah.
Um, but she does that, and I had my issues with that happening
Yeah.
last time, and she now is actively cheating, not just in a kind of Andy, I'll do everything possible to make sure I get the grade, but in the kind of way where as if somebody else did this, she would be the one saying, "You can't do that. You can't do that. Terrible. Absolutely ridiculous. Go to the principal now. We can't do this.
Yeah.
Scratch everything. We do this," and getting really, really highly strung about it. She's doing this now. Why is she becoming a bad person? I don't like any of it.
Okay, but from a uh dramatic teen soapy aspect,
Yes, 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 but
did
how
it
many
did it
times do I
kind of
have to
have
say,
did it have the impact that it needed when you saw it was her?
yes, of course it did, because it's shocking, isn't it? It's supposed to be shocking. It's supposed to
Yes.
be, oh my God, why and how has that possibly happened?
Yeah.
You know, but how many times do I have to say things need to happen slower in Dawson's Creek? Things
Yeah.
happen too, hyped up things happen too quickly all the time.
Yes, so I think you're still kind of dealing with the absent summer, of getting to kind of know that months have passed to cause this change in characters, and I totally get that. I get that frustration, um, and even kind of her reaction in the next episode, like, not to get too much into, like, the details of it, but how did you read, because we see how hurt and remorseful and her really not justifiable but understandable reasons for cheating on Pacey. So her kind of
Yeah.
flighty guilt and then kind of relief and all of these kinds of crazy feelings she's feeling about what she did in terms of the cheating, did that at least help you understand her, like her reasonings for the cheating, or did it just make her look even worse to you?
No, what, for cheating on Pacey?
No, cheating on the test. So in the
For
next
cheating on the
episode, we
test?
see kind of her have these really kind of up and down reactions of guilt and this and
Yeah.
that. Did that kind of um
See,
make her look
I wanted to
worse
get
to
into
you,
this.
or did it kind of help at least make you understand her reasoning a little bit more, like she did, like she was able to maybe do a little bit with her reasons for cheating on Pacey.
I understand what you're saying, and I wanted to get into this when we do talk about the
Yeah.
next episode, obviously, which we'll get onto reasonably shortly. But I felt the what I read the most out of Andy in the 4th episode was fake guilt,
Mm.
pretending, putting on the act of being guilty as she rehearses her
Mhm.
apology speech in front of
Yeah.
the mirror. You
Mhm.
don't do that if it's genuine. You do that if you're practicing saying the right thing.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna then go into the principal and you have practiced saying the right thing to make yourself totally innocent in the situation, yet no walking out of that it's all been manipulation. Where's this come from? Is what I'm thinking.
Okay. So it just
Why
kind
is
of
she
made it
turning
worse for
into a
you.
manipulative demon all of a sudden? This is what's going on here? We already have
Yeah.
Eve being a manipulative demon female character for no good reason. We
Yes.
don't need
Yes.
Andy being it as well.
Yes, and I get your frustration with kind of the trajectory of the character. Um, and I think that you just kind of have to chalk it up to what we've seen this character go through. Like all of
I
the
guess. I
things
mean,
that have.
there's been issues, obviously.
Yes, and she's in a darker place than she's letting on as well. We've seen her
Yeah.
kind of push feelings down. We've seen her act like everything's fine when it's not. You know, her being this kind of chipper, fast talking, everything's great, leave me alone kind of attitude when, we first met her and then we find out she's dealing with all this stuff with her mother. And then more layers are revealed with her kind of own mental state and those things. So, I think ultimately we have to kind of just chalk it up to she's been through so much that it's kind of warped her into kind of being this person who does these things, who kind of sees no way out, who sees no other way for herself, and then kind of puts on her regular facade of acting like everything's okay. So, yes, I totally get you feeling like it's this jarring shift with the character, but we
The
just kind of have
facade is
to.
the facade is just becoming, rather than understandably protective, it's becoming conscious. It's
Yes. Yeah.
becoming this
Th
kind of, I'm aware I'm putting on the facade now, and that's helping me be
This new
devious.
version of myself. Yes.
She doesn't need to
Yeah.
be that. She doesn't need to be this new version of herself. She might feel she needs to be this new version of herself to get away from the old version of herself, which is
Yeah.
understandable. That is understandable.
Yes. So I think that's what
But
the show
I don't
wants
have to
you.
like it.
Yes, definitely not. I totally understand that. So I think that's just kind of where they're going with her, and that's what they want you to kind of put together, that she's just been through a lot, and this has kind of changed her fundamentally in a lot of ways. And she doesn't really have, her biggest kind of support system to kind of uh,
No.
help guide her as well. And she doesn't
Well,
really
whose
have
fault's that?
that person who kind of helps her, feel like she has a purpose. She doesn't have that anymore
He's off
either.
being supportive to somebody else at the moment.
Yes, and is this episode as well, again putting on this brave face and handing Pacey all of the things he ever gave her. Pictures of them together, gifts he
Yeah.
bought her, those kinds of things, all in a box, and she gives it to him and just kind of, with her kind of chipper attitude, okay, well, clean break, here you go. And so that's kind of hard for Pacey. And so he does get a little drunk and he goes to Joey's
He
work
does.
on the dock, the gassing up the dock station. And kind of talks to her about it, and she sees he's drunk and he drops the box and the picture of them sinks into the ocean, and it's a
Very
whole thing.
dramatic.
It's very dramatic. But Joey tries to kind of be supportive, and then things kind of come to a head, as when the test goes missing, Dawson goes to Eve and he kind of, asks her about it. And she's like, well, you already know who took it. And he's like, no, I don't know. And she's like, well, who do you think took it? And he kind of stays quiet. And he's like, says, no, I don't really know. And she's like, well, it's the whoever you were just thinking of. That's the person who took it. So Dawson, then we kind of surmise that Dawson just automatically assumes it's Pacey because obviously he's the biggest slacker. He would be the easy choice. So then he decides to
It's not
confront.
very nice, though.
No, and we've seen him have these moments of treating Pacey this way several times throughout these 3 seasons, the seasons thus far. So he goes to Joey's work and finds Pacey and tells him um, that he thinks he's the one who took it. And Pacey's like, why would you think it's me? You're the one who brought the test to everybody. You didn't get rid of it. You didn't, uh, turn it in. You passed it around to all of us. So why can I not say that you're probably the one who has it and you just want to blame somebody else? And Pacey brings up some valid points. And then it turns into a sparring match in terms of talking about their failed relationships
Yes.
aspect.
Because it's
And
all very egocentric, because Dawson has obviously the biggest ego in the entire world, and
yeah,
Pacey's hurt at the minute. Pacey's
yes.
perpetually hurt
And
at
he's
the
a little
minute.
bit drunk, so he throws out
Yes.
there what Dawson did to Joey in terms of, the forcing her into that situation with implicating her father, and then he
Yeah.
kind of throws it back in his face that he drove Andy crazy, and Pacey punches him, and then Dawson punches him back. Pacey falls to the floor. Joey comes out and is like, "Dawson, what the hell are you doing?" Shoos him away, and he's very much there for Pacey, and Pacey's like, even takes the blame. He's like, "No, it was my fault," kind of thing. And then him and Joey kind of have a nice talk about it. And, he's like hurt that Dawson would automatically assume it was him. So
Yes. So
yeah.
this is what I'm liking, and this is what I'm seeing now in season 3 with Dawson's
Okay.
Creek. Is a the bond of Joey and Pacey is clearer than it has been in the past. Already in these first few episodes, and this is what I think it is leading up to this
Okay.
season. A stronger bond between those. I'll throw that out there. Stronger
Okay.
bond, however that may be, potentially something actual, fully fledged, whatever. We understand what I'm trying to say there.
Yes, yes.
But I can sense it happening because I can see it happening. I like this. I like that they are speaking to each other more,
Yeah. Yes,
potentially.
because even
I
because even
like
the little
that
scenes we
they
got in season 1,
yes,
I think were really great when them kind of talking about their families and them kind of being the black sheep
yes,
of the friend group and those
this
kinds of
is what I'm
things.
saying.
Him clocking her jealousy of Jen because her love for Dawson, him kind of understanding that. All of these kinds of little moments we got in season 1, now we're finally getting to see them full on kind of having a friendship, which is really great.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. They have their support system of each other now that they don't have any external support system,
Yeah.
and they're giving each other that kind of, and I like that. They
Yeah.
need it. My God, do they both need it
Yeah.
at the minute, and they have it. So I think I'm just thinking human being wise. If you find somebody when you are at your lowest and they are there for you as a shoulder,
Yeah.
you're gonna latch onto them.
Yeah.
This is just what people do.
Yeah.
So why does something not blossom from that?
Yeah. 100%.
Maybe it
So
does. We'll
yeah,
we'll
no,
see.
no.
But
I
it's just
appreciate
my
you
thought.
sharing your thoughts on that, and just generally, I like seeing these two get closer. Because we saw this antagonistic kind of thing between the two of them,
Yeah.
which was always kind of a great kind of comedy aspect of the first season. But I did always enjoy the little glimmers of seeing them kind of relate to each other, or even be surprised that they're related to each other. I think Pacey, even in that first season, Pacey kind of developed a little crush on her when they were stuck together all day.
Mm,
Um, so just getting to see kind of more of their dynamic, I think is fun. It's kind of very similar to getting to see Jack and Jen kind of flesh out their relationship,
yeah. It's
getting to see them
good.
come together and see how they interact and how well it works. So yeah, yes.
I like
I
it.
like that. Yeah.
I do. Should we get into episode 4 then, Janine, at this point, or is there anything else we do want to bring
Um,
up about the third?
well, yeah, like, just kind of how the ending ultimately goes. Um, so after kind of this confrontation, we don't really ever learn who took the test. And then it's time for the test, the actual test. Dawson stands up and says, "Okay, I'm just not gonna take it," and
Yeah,
decides to leave. And then Pacey also says, "I'm not taking it either," and he leaves. And then they kind of, both stand outside and kind of make peace with each other about it. Um,
a little bit quick again, as far as I'm concerned. Let's have 2 episodes at
yes,
least
because
of
they said some pretty
hating each
rough
other and not
things.
really
Dawson
good.
really going out of his way to accuse his best friend automatically that Pacey was his first thought. Very hurtful thing. So yeah, it was a little too quick for my liking, but they kind of make this peace at the end, both deciding to just uh step away. Like Dawson obviously kind of implicated himself in taking the test in the first place, Pacey being number one suspect. So they just kind of take their names off the board
Yeah,
morally and just decide not to take the PSATs. And then we see, it's time to take the test. Andy's just quickly filling out all the bubbles and then realizes that she hasn't even opened the test booklet. She cracks it open. And so we get this kind of very kind of sneaky ending of her. And
yes,
yes, and we did get the scene of once Dawson was kind of in this big conflict. I think it's after he does confront Pacey and it doesn't go well, is when he gets pissed at Eve for kind of meddling with his
yes.
mind and bringing him the test in the first place, and says he doesn't want to know her anymore and leave me alone, kind of thing, and kind of cuts
Well,
off
that
that.
happened. That worked last time, didn't it? I don't want to know you anymore, and then the episode after we start knowing each other again, don't we, Joey and Dawson? But
Yes.
I'm not going to believe anybody in Dawson's Creek saying I don't want to know you anymore.
Well,
Janine.
unless you see the summer transpire.
Unless I see every little day of their entire
In
lives.
between the break of that being
Um,
said.
but I didn't. I almost don't think Eve should be in the show anymore now. You
Well,
know what I
she'll
mean?
she'll be
And
back.
you're telling
She'll
me
be
she
back.
is, and this is a weird thing. We've already spoken about that.
Yes, so
Um,
we'll see her come back for a little bit more. But yeah, so really kind of shocking Andy kind of going
yeah,
full dark
evil,
with what she's doing. And yeah, some
but
really
morally
interesting
good
things.
from Dawson and Pacey to stand up and refuse to take it, I
Yes,
suppose. Even
yes.
though they're being a bit righteous,
A
or
little
maybe
bit.
just Dawson comes across as that. Morally good.
Yeah. Yes, I see that.
Episode 4 of season
Yes.
3, Janine. Really, I mean, it's a good continuation of episode 3, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't put anything drastically different in there, and it builds pretty well
Yeah.
for the tension we got in the third episode. It's called Home Movies. Take it away with the
Yes.
synopsis.
So, Home Movies, episode 304, A Matter of Faith. Father and
Ah,
son, father and son are at odds when Dawson moves forward with a news piece for his mom's Philadelphia station using Mitch's star player Jack as his subject matter, even though Mitch is vehemently opposed. Meanwhile, Joey and Pacey find themselves in cahoots when they must pay the price for ditching class. Andy jumps to conclusions and panics about the reason Principal Green wants to meet with her, and Jen goes to great lengths to remove herself as head cheerleader, but is shocked at the end result.
yes, hilarious from Jen. I'd like to point out in this episode does really,
Yes.
really well. Obviously, consistently hates, tells everybody she can come across that she hates being head cheerleader, even though they're obviously, the Cape Side Minutemen are about to play the game, and it's all about hype and pep and let's get everybody involved and cheer on to the win and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's a
And
big
she
team, it's
doesn't.
a big game. Yeah.
Oh, it's a big deal, and she doesn't really feel like doing that, but she kind of does it anyway. She puts her little kind of cynical chants in there and things like that. And then eventually at the end of the episode, she becomes homecoming queen
Yes,
instead
so
of
it's
head
it is
cheerleader.
yes, it is the
Absolutely
homecoming game.
hilarious.
It's the
Love it.
homecoming game, and she
I
goes
love
through the
every
motions
second.
of it. She opens kind of being annoyed that she has to wear her uniform to school. Grams tells her, "When I was on the pep squad, we loved wearing our uniforms to school and show our school pride." And, like, Jen, of course, ruins it by like, "Yeah, the dudes just were watching you in your u uniforms. They weren't
Yes.
t
You were you were showing
they
a
weren't
lot
thinking
more
about
than school
school
pride,
pride." And
Graham.
Grams is like, clutching her pearls. Um, and then she gets to school and realizes that the rest of the cheerleaders put her up for an auction for a kiss to raise money. And after
Yes.
they've kind of
What's
sold
that
her
about?
to the slaughter, essentially, this is when she gets pissed and decides to
Is
quit.
this a thing? Is is
Um,
is this a thing that
well, I
happens?
mean, kissing booths and those kinds of
Kissing booths,
things,
like
maybe like
kissing booths.
dating like auctions and things like that. My school
I
never did
find it
stuff like that.
strange.
And yeah, obviously it probably would not happen today, but
You wouldn't think so, would you?
no,
You
no.
really, really wouldn't think so. But the fact it did, not, you know, what, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, this was happening.
I mean, yeah, like a very, very controversial scene in Revenge of the Nerds was surrounded with this
Oh
kissing booth
God.
thing. I mean,
Right?
but then we did get recent movies in the past decade, like the kissing booth films on Netflix. That had a
That's
whole, I
what I'm
think, like
saying.
trilogy of
That was like
films. So
5 years ago, wasn't it?
yes, so a thing that I guess happens at high schools across the country. Wasn't there a kissing booth in one of your favorite movies? She's the Man. Um,
Possibly. I don't
um,
really focus on that element of she's the man, to be honest with you. It's more
um, so
everything
yeah,
else going on.
I don't know if this is a real thing that actually happens at high schools and colleges, or if it's just a contrivance for, cinematic hijinks. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, they do auction her off. Hey, get a kiss from the head cheerleader to raise money. And so that is like the last straw for her, and she quits. Then
It
she's getting
reminds me of the dating auction that we just had in last week's episode of the main show on Oklahoma,
oh yes,
which is
yes,
the
very
exact
much,
same thing going
very
on.
much,
And,
yes.
that is at least more understandable because it's like 1850s Oklahoma
Yeah,
or
very
whatever it
much the
is.
time. Yeah, so to be doing that now is a lot. And so Jen, is awoken by Grams and a gaggle of cheerleaders, and she's like, I told you I'm done. I don't wanna be," and they're like, "No, no, no, we accept you, not wanting to be captain anymore, but someone has donated $500 to kiss you, and so we have to make this work because, what are we gonna tell the little orphan children?" And Jen's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, the charity was for orphan kids,"
Oh,
and she's like,
orphan
"Orphans?
kids. I mean, for
Really? Like, this is for orphans?" So then she's like, "Fine, I'll do the kiss." Um, and she gets on the football field after the game is done to give the kiss, and the person happens to be Henry. He had been
yes.
telling this
No,
story about this like mouthpiece that was like belonged to some famous football player or something.
I
And and so he ultimately ended up and Jen kind of came over when he was telling this story, talking about this like gross, like spitty mouthpiece that he like saved. And when she asked him how he got that much money to kiss her, he told her that he sold his precious famous mouthpiece so he could kiss her. And so
mm.
Jen is very kind of taken aback. She's a little bit flattered, but still very much like, really? Like to kiss me? Like take so
This
she
is this
ultimately
is about as much genuine flattery as
yeah.
Jen can take because she does genuinely take it.
Yeah.
Definitely. She is really quite pleased. The smile is genuine. The
Yeah, that
feeling
somebody
you
would
feel,
go through that gesture for her, so
it's just unusual for her, and I
y
kind of like it. I mean,
yes.
I do find it hilarious that the character she has taken on in this season already. I really
Yes.
do.
Yes, we've seen kind of her and Andy go in different in different
It's
switches
incredible.
in personality for sure. Um, and so, yeah, she happily kisses Henry, just very taken aback by his gesture, and then they're like, "And one more surprise," and she's like, "What?" you have been named by your peers homecoming queen, and they put the little
Here
cape
is
on
the
her.
cape, and the crown, and the little staff.
Yes. And she's just like, "What?" But she, like, is a good sport about it, like, waves her little staff, like,
It's
and
ridiculous.
she's a
I mean,
good sport about it. So, a fun little
that's
comedic
obviously
beat for Jen at the end of this episode.
yes, that's obviously kind of a big thing. Is it just a movie and TV thing? Not the concept of homecoming king and queen, like, I
Yeah.
know that stays true, but how seriously it is taken. Like, to the point where an unnamed homecoming queen would be going on and on and on about being their high school's homecoming queen in that stereotypical small town, I've never left my small town way I peaked in high
I was
school,
famous there,
and
yeah.
I was famous in high school kind of way. And they would latch onto that for the rest of their lives. Whereas I feel like if you were head boy or head girl in a British high school, you would literally forget about being that the moment you left, regardless of who you were and what you were doing.
Yeah, I think it depends on, like, the importance of your high school in where you live. Like, obviously small town things. We saw that when we did teen movies and talked about Varsity Blues, and that was a whole thing about it, like a very serious football town where
Yeah,
everyone in the town
this
took
has
it
always
completely
been
seriously. So
this has
yeah, like
always
I
been the
can't
big
speak
thing.
to that being an experience in my high school going American high school going situation. It was like a cool thing in the moment. Maybe you remembered it when reunions came around, but ultimately, yeah, it's not something that, like, stays with you for, you know,
So
later.
it has to
But
be kind of a semi-rural place
I
for
would
that
think
to
so, for it to be
really
taken
take
very seriously, to be like your claim to fame for the rest of your days kind of thing. But,
mm,
yeah, Jen definitely is not seeing it that way, I'm
no,
sure. I am sure.
no.
But yes, a really kind of cute little story we get with Jen. Then we move on to a really interesting conflict with Dawson and his dad.
Yes, because
Um,
this is very interesting. This is probably the most interesting thing that's going on in this whole couple of episodes,
yeah,
I think. And you understand both angles as well, which I
exactly,
think is
yes.
unusual for these two, is you actually understand both their viewpoints.
Yes. Like, and I think because, yeah, when it was the conflict before with Dawson really kind of shaming his dad and making him feel like a jerk for, you know, taking forever to figure out what he wanted to do with
Yeah,
Gail. I think we were generally frustrated with how he was handling the situation, but we gave him so much grace because
yeah.
it is a difficult
It
situation.
yeah. He didn't do
But
it. He
yes,
didn't put
exactly. So
you
it's understandable that he's having such a tough time, but, I think our biggest issue was him kind of leading Gail on with hope kind of thing.
yes,
But
sure.
Dawson definitely was just like, on top of that, Dawson was angry with him for not having a job and not being successful enough, and kind of digging at his father's ego in all these kind of fundamental manly ways. And that was really harsh to kind of see. And so we weren't seeing both sides. We were very much on Mitch's side in that conflict. So here, I think we get both sides of it, but then it also kind of speaks to the complete opposite of what Mitch was saying when the director lady, the film teacher, was kind of
Yeah.
coming at Dawson for his aspirations and things like that. It felt very in conflict to Mitch's support in that situation. But you still understand his perspective. So Dawson gets this opportunity by his mom to do a segment for her show that he can film and send off to her in Philadelphia. So he decides to do a story about Jack being a gay player on the football team. He's answering questions, asking Jack about, how he feels about it. Does he feel like it's going to affect him in this next big game? This and that. Dawson
Yeah, and I think
talks to.
we are there looking at this going, this is a
"Mm,
good
interesting.
little
Yeah,
piece. This is a good, interesting piece. You could be having a real good, social stance on this kind of thing. What does it matter who you are? Good football player is a good football player. I think this is
exactly.
something sports are notoriously bad at as well.
Yeah.
How many openly homosexual sports players can you name? Because I can't name any male openly
Yeah.
homosexual sports players off the top of my head. I can give you female sports players,
Yeah.
but I cannot give you male ones off the top of my head.
Yeah.
None
And
in
so,
any sport,
yeah.
any major
So,
sport, which is
so
crazy.
exactly. So generally an interesting topic. Um, and we've also seen at the beginning of this episode, Dawson and Pacey kind of cleaning out Dawson's room of the very kind of childlike, idealistic things that,
Yeah.
posters and movies that he made and all these things he wants to kind of be a more serious filmmaker is kind of what we see his trajectory and thought process at the beginning of this episode. He even kind of pops in an old tape where he sees him and Joey as little kids playing
Yeah.
together and that kind of thing, and it made him kind of smile
Obviously, he
about it. Yeah.
keeps his posters of, Amistad and movies like
Yes.
that.
So he
Why would you not
definitely
have a poster of Amistad, notoriously Spielberg's most popular movie,
yes.
um, over the over your bed? It's
Yes,
very
instead of
odd.
Jaws or
I find it
something. So
every single time I see that. The Close Encounters one, okay, yeah. The E.T. one, yes. Okay. The Indiana Jones, yes, okay.
yeah.
Amistad. It's a good
Everything
movie.
everything Spielberg is just kind of the trajectory of Dawson, the personality of Dawson. So we do see him, taking down like all the like little kid idealistic things about his thoughts on filmmaking, and we get to see him kind of want to be more serious and take that aspect more seriously, which is why he's putting a lot of thought into this news piece and putting a lot of stock into it
Yeah.
in terms of his dreams of directing. Um, and so he's trying to interview Mitch throughout the course of this to get his take as the coach of, Jack and this and thing. And he has a deadline, and Mitch is like, "No, I'm too busy. Like, this isn't a really important game. I can do it
Yeah.
after the game is done. I just need to focus on this. I need to focus on these guys, get them ready, because this is huge, and I think I can win this game." And Dawson's very much, "Well, no, like I have a deadline. I have to send this off to mom." And he's like, "Wait, what? You're sending this off to your mom?" And he's like, "Well, I thought this was just some kind of school project." And he's like, "No, this is gonna go on the news. Like, this is a legit thing." And he's like, "Well, I didn't know that. Like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't need the other team putting a target on Jack's back by highlighting the fact that he's this gay student and all of these gay player and all of this." And Dawson's
Which
like,
you
"I
absolutely understand though, don't you? I mean,
once
not
yeah,
only not only does Mitch not want everybody targeting Jack, which this will obviously boost the knowledge
yeah,
of Jack and everything, but he doesn't want any sort of like Jack's a really good player. So tactically, he doesn't want the
yeah,
tactics getting out.
the team to know this is their best player, we gotta target him." So then, the segment is on and Dawson and his dad are watching it. And they get a little segment at the end of the coach of the other team talking about, "I don't care if he likes to wear lipstick and rouge, we're gonna tackle him, we're gonna take him down like we would take down any player."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you say that, but you can't really speak for your players, these young high school guys with this kind of probably stigma around this thing. Um, and Dawson's really proud of his piece. He's looking to his dad to see his take, and Dawson's like, "Well, thank you for making us lose the first game, our first big game of the season." And Dawson's like, "What are you talking?" He's like,
Yeah.
"If you say so, but like, what do you mean? Like, I thought it was a great piece." And he's like, "Dawson, you like exposed our best player. You put a target on Jack's back. They're gonna specifically target him now, not just because you said like he's one of our best, but because he's gay. Like, you really ruined everything for us." And then Dawson takes this immediately as his father not really supporting him and that he seems to have more time. He's like, "I've been trying. I told you about this. I told you what I was trying to do. I wanted to speak to you about it, but you had more time for your players than me." And so I get, Dawson's feelings on that. And that like you don't want to support what I want to do because this is something I took really seriously and I really cared about and I wanted to include you and you didn't have any time for me. And, Mitch kind of throws back, "I've always been supportive of your dreams." I love when he said, "I hum
Mm.
the theme to Close Encounters in my sleep because of you and your love of Spielberg. So don't tell me I don't support you." Um, and so this fight is just really interesting. I really loved kind of this plot point between the two of them because, like you said, we do really see both sides of it, and it's really
Very,
difficult
very
situation.
clearly. Very,
Yeah,
very clearly. Because like Mitch has finally found something
yeah.
to take his mind away from everything.
From his
Why is
failed
he not
marriage, his
allowed?
failed
Why is he
endeavors,
not allowed?
to put his
Exactly.
all into that.
Why is he not allowed to care about that?
Yeah.
He is allowed to care about that. I don't think Dawson ever says he's not allowed to care about that.
Yeah, but he does
It's just Dawson,
trivialize it a little bit.
but he trivializes it. He does. It's there's no winner. There's
Yeah.
no I take this side over this side. You see everything, every viewpoint here, you view as accurate in
Yeah.
watching it, and I
Yes.
love that. I do love it.
Yes, it's great, and so we get to the game, and, predicted, all of the players come for Jack, and they're just taking him down at every turn. He can't get the ball a few inches away before getting tackled, and so it's become really frustrating, and now it's like halftime. Dawson's feeling really guilty about this, and so him and Jen kind of come up with this little plan, and they decide, let's smudge up your numbers. Let's put makeup on everybody to play with the little
Yeah.
joke that they want to make about you. Cause I think they, when they do tackle Jack, they make like kind of like gay, kind of
Yeah, some sort of stupid
bullying
comment.
comments to him once they take him
Yeah.
down. So, yeah, so Dawson kind of comes up with this idea to put makeup on all of them, smudge up their numbers to kind of
I
distract and help them kind of all just look the same. And I love that the team supports Jack in this way.
yeah.
It's a fun little thing, and Dawson can help rectify the mistake that he maybe didn't even realize he was making. And it ultimately works, and they win the game. So
Yes, I really do like this, but I don't just like this from a story point. I don't just like this from a character point. I like this from a social stance point
yeah,
of actually this storyline, this story arc of Jack being a gay football player, to me holds way more weight than the coming out story arc did. Because the
yeah,
coming out story arc felt like it came out of nowhere and
yeah,
then was a bit messily handled and a
yeah,
bit at times uncomfortably handled in
yeah,
how evil it felt at the
yeah,
beginning until he realized obviously everything's fine.
yeah,
This is at least coming this is coming from the fundamental of I am gay, I am a football player, this is what happens, this is fine. Um Other people have that issue, and then if other people want to have that issue, other people are going to have that issue.
yeah.
Should we protect other people, you know, targeting, as we've talked about? Should we
Mhm.
protect other people targeting Jack? Should we allow the targeting to expose? And then should we play on that? Should we have, should we make them, i.e., the other team, look like idiots for targeting the quote unquote weird gay guy on the
Yeah,
team by all doing this satirical kind of let's all put makeup on ourselves thing?
yeah.
And then it all just be it's a show of solidarity as
Yeah.
well as making fun of the homophobia of the other team. And
Yes.
I like every aspect of that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's that clear stance that I didn't get from the coming out arc, which I felt was messily handled. But I'm getting
Yes.
that now. And I'm not a
Yes.
gay man. I can only imagine what gay men must have thought. You know, I'm
Yes.
I'm I'm looking at it as me going,
Yeah.
that makes this is clearly a more respectful way of doing things than the coming out art was.
Yes, and it speaks to the camaraderie of the team and him really being kind of accepted and that kind of thing. And it also works in terms of the bonding between Dawson and his dad, because I think when they are at this halftime point, they're all really low. Mitch starts talking about, I think, some like Greek figure to kind of inspire them. And as
Yeah.
he's talking about it, Dawson walks in and kind of finishes the sentence in the story because it's something his dad always talked to him about. Because even in their fight, Dawson kind of says, these boys are like more the son you always wanted that was into sports and football and all
Mm.
these things. And so getting to see that they do have more common ground than Dawson kind of remembers in the heat of the moment was nice. So he kind of comes in and finishes Mitch's speech and story because it's something that Mitch always told him. And so Dawson getting to be able to finish that with these guys, gets them back on kind of that common ground. So I like how we resolve the fight. I think the fight itself was really interesting. I like that we are getting to see both sides of the situation and really understanding both perspectives in the fight. And ultimately
Yeah.
how it's all kind of tied up and resolved. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice because I think, do we not end with Dawson and Mitch, like, or Dawson saying to Mitch, "Come on, let's go and throw the football for a bit,"
Yeah. Yes,
and
and 'cause
it's that's
and
really
we do
nice.
see and, Dawson ended up giving Joey, the tape that he had found of them playing as little kids, and when
Yeah,
we kind of cut to Joey watching it, the first scene we see is Mitch throwing the ball with a young Dawson.
yeah.
Before it cuts to the two of them playing, we see Joey's mom in there pushing her on a swing and that kinda
Mm.
thing. So, um, yeah, I think
I
probably
think
the
there's only
strongest.
one. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it's the strongest story point of this episode.
100% it is, and I think there's only one real story point we have left to talk about because we spoke
Yeah.
about Andy's
Andy's yeah,
non-guilt guilt
yes,
before.
the principal kind of approaches her, to it's about something that has to do with disciplinary stuff, and she gets really nervous
Yeah,
and guilty. That's when she starts kind of rehearsing her speech. She kind of starts kind of putting her stigma to Jack, and, like, she's giving Jack advice about his situation, but it's really her talking about herself and the stress she's feeling about potentially being caught, and then ultimately he tells her he wants her to be a part of a disciplinary committee. So now the hypocrisy of her being the head of the disciplinary committee when she has done like the worst thing you could do in an academic perspective
yeah.
is really interesting. And once she learns that it's that, she has this sense of relief that she got away with it. So yeah, just again speaking to this really unlikable turn for Andy. So that's kind of the wrap up of her little story. But yes, then we kind of ultimately
Not
end
nice.
with Pacey and Joey hanging out and
Yes.
yeah,
Again, furthering my little theory that is potentially far more than a theory, and I might be being very, very on my high horse, and everybody else is just like, "Well, yeah, obviously." Or,
well,
"What on earth are you talking about?"
I will not
It's
confirm
either
nor
one or the
deny
other, though.
your
It's
thoughts.
look, it's either one or the other. So everybody watching and listening to Discovering Dawson's Creek is either going, "Yeah, obviously, get off your high horse," or, "What are you talking about? Are you even watching the show?"
Yes,
So I'm really
I will not
opening myself up to it all.
okay, well, I will not confirm nor deny your thoughts and theories of things. Even though you say my
Good little
face is
bonding
giving you
session again,
something.
though.
But yes, she's just kind of done with the day, and he's like, "Well, hey, do you wanna skip school with me?" And she's like, "What? No, I'm gonna skip with you." And he's like, "Okay, but, like, it's gonna be, really interesting thing, nice surprise." And so he's like, "Okay, bye." And then he kinda turns the corner, and he's, like, counting, and then she's like, "Fine." And as she turns the corner, he's right there waiting for her. He's like, 6 seconds. It took you 6 seconds to, like, change your mind. Whatever, lady." So then they go and they stop at the post office, and he has something in some package. She doesn't know what it is. And she's like, "You don't have a car?" He's like, "Well, sometimes my dad wants to use his police cruiser. So I'm sorry I don't have a car. We're going to have to walk." So then he kind of convinces her to hitchhike so they can get to
Yes,
wherever they're
terrible
going,
idea. Never ever
this
hitchhike.
mystery location. So he goes and jumps in a bush and then leaves her there to hitchhike, and a car pulls over to the side, and she kneels down to give her spiel about, "Hey, can you give me my buddy a ride?" And it's Principal Green.
Yes, hilariously.
Yes, and he's like, "Oh, hey, are you gonna be needing a ride back to school, Miss Potter?" And then here comes Pacey. He's like, "Oh, me and Joey here, we were working on our botany project," and he comes with like a whole big piece of the bush and is like, "Oh yeah, we were kind of looking for samples for our project, and we just, found ourselves wandered a little too far away from campus. So yes, of course, we would love a ride back to school." And Mr. Green is
Disciplinary
actually
committee for these two.
yeah, but he's actually very impressed with
He
Pacey's
is.
excuse,
Yes, he
and he's
is.
like, But, I hope you, get more familiar with itching because that is some poison oak that you're holding there. And, so he ends up throwing it away, and they get in his car and go back to school, and his disciplinary plan for them is for them to be the head and the tail end of the Minuteman horse. Uh, so
Now, is that good enough? I'm not saying I'm a school
I mean,
principal.
considering Mr. Green has shown to be, like, a very kind of thoughtful principal,
He
and
has.
he really impressed with the lengths that Pacey went to get them off the hook. I think he does cut them a little slack, but also their reaction, I think, is enough for him to feel like, "Okay, I think this is good
I
enough."
mean, that's true. They really don't want to do it, do they? Which I
Yeah.
get. I mean, who wants to play the horse
Yeah.
in these sort
Because
of
the
situations?
Minuteman actually ends up riding them. So, it's the homecoming game, and the Minuteman is riding in on the back and tail to horse person, and obviously it's very cumbersome, and they fall down, and we hear them arguing, and we think it's Joey and Pacey, and then when all is revealed, it is not them. They, like, were able to trick some freshmen into taking the
Right.
fall for them. And they ultimately end up going to the secret location. And the secret location is a boat in a shipyard, and it's a boat that Pacey
Yes.
bought. It was rescued from a shipwreck, and he has plans to fix it up and make it something and sail around the world. And
But
the
where he's found
package,
the money to buy this boat from?
he only got it for $200, and I don't know, odd
Where's he
jobs.
got $200 from as a 16-year-old?
Well, remember we
In
saw in the early seasons working at the
1999.
video store, where's he
Oh,
else
yeah.
is he gonna spend his money? So,
I forgot he had a job. We haven't seen him in
yeah.
his job in some time.
Yes. So, he got it for a really good deal, and he's gonna take the time and fix it up. And then he reveals what he had gotten from the post office, and it's the sign for the boat, and he's calling it True Love. So, uh
Yes.
Joey's very kind of cute about it, like, "Oh, permission to come aboard," and she starts helping him kind of sand the boat, and they start kind of this process of fixing it up, and a nice little friends
Mm.
moment with the two of them. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. I mean, True Love's a bit of a steep name to be calling
Well,
your
I
boat.
mean, that's what Joey says. Joey says
It's
just that.
very intense.
Yeah, he's like, "I know it's a little too, like, sappy and sentimental, but I still do believe in it." So, I
What if
think it's hopeful.
Pacey's gonna become a sea captain, isn't he? He's gonna become like a either a harbor master or just a you know, like Richard Harris from Hawaii that we talked about on the main show 2 weeks ago. That's what Pacey's gonna become, just a perpetual at sea man.
Pacey takes some interesting turns in his career trajectories as the show goes on. So,
Does he ever
yeah.
want to become any sort of boat person?
Yes, he does
Okay,
really enjoy, his time on the sea, and it becomes a lot of, like, his personality for a little bit. So,
okay. So
yeah,
he is a fisherman or some sort of sea
seaman.
captain.
Yes.
He can be a sea. Does he grow a beard and put on a peaked cap
I mean,
and a big coat?
I don't think we ever see him fisherman style. He does grow a goatee, the
Oh
college
god.
years.
Oh
So,
dear. Not a goatee. Oh my god. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
No, it's nice though. It is nice. It is
yeah.
nice. This whole boat
So nice
situation.
little project. Yeah.
It's good. Good couple of episodes. They really are.
Yeah.
I think we're just building to something that hasn't come yet. And this is what I said before. I enjoyed the the football stuff, the sports side.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else, to be honest, in these couple of episodes.
Yeah. I
And
think it
we
moved
get
the
it.
needle in terms of like
Humor in there.
character choices, and character relationships and dynamics. But as in terms of like what are we following this season? Yeah, I don't know that that has been fully revealed yet,
No,
or really kind of distinctly set up. So
we'll be
um,
we'll be getting to that though
we
soon
will
enough, I would
very
imagine,
soon,
won't we?
very
I
soon. Yes.
mean, Back with discovering Dawson's Creek in a couple of weeks, of course, here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Do subscribe and ding your notification bell up here. This show alternates every Monday with talking Ted Lasso. We also have a bunch of other fun stuff, of course, on the YouTube channel as well. Everything's been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen all episode long. The main podcast feed for Morgan hasn't seen The Parent Show. And obviously, It's a Wonderful Podcast, the main show celebrating old movies every week. You can find those on all major podcast platforms. Patreon donation, merch, and social media, and all the other fun stuff is in the description of this episode. I do think that means there is only one thing left to do, Janine. And in your best I'm a football player calling a play voice, go ahead and take us.
3, 2, 1.
Bye. I love how you did that.